Still kind of cold. I'm going to leave my jacket on. Let me pull up the schedule real quick so you can see what we have on our plate today. Last official lecture. So if you didn't like the lectures, didn't like the activities, we're about to wrap that up. We're about to roll those over into some larger assignments. You already know what to expect because we did this process at the beginning of week 6 and week 7, right around midterm. So everything from this point on is fairly predictable. It's just tying up loose ends after we get through today and taking this and rolling it into one major project that you can benefit from later on. Should you go to university and need a writing sample to transfer to, everybody will have a copy of the writing sample we complete. I'll send that to y'all once we get everything wrapped up, because we'll take your group writing samples and those will go into a larger writing sample for the whole class, where I'll take the best work and put it into that, so you'll have a quality product to use for application purposes to university. Let me dim the lights real quick. So your work is not lost. It wasn't wasted effort. You can actually reuse it, not just to study the information, but you'll see moving forward, if you stay in kinesiology, how everything we've covered is foundational and how this matrices that we go over today is foundational, and why I've repeated that over and over to give you repetition. So if you weren't getting the repetition studying the information on your own or experiencing it through the class, I've given you repetition. Not that I've forgotten what I've talked about, in that I've given you repetition daily, especially in the second half with this matrices. I've been building it to this point on purpose. And almost everything, not everything, but almost everything will somehow be directed back to that matrices. Let's look at the schedule. So we're going to cover flexibility. We missed that on Monday. I didn't realize we had a day off. Yeah, I did not see that in the schedule. Alex had emailed me. He's like, hey, we're off on Monday. So I had to roll that over. Everything was put on today. So everybody's going to have access to the illustration we do. We're going to do a sit and reach for this one. We're going to do a video that's more dynamic, but we only need one person for each one of these to do this. And we'll just give it out to the whole group. Y'all can just share that image and share that video. That way we can get through all of this. Because I think if we did it as a group, it would take too long. But we need this for the writing sample. Because I don't have a video for this one. And I don't have I think I may have an image for this, but I'd like to have a better one. And so whoever does the best job at the images, we can let them take it. And then whoever does the best job at the videos or feels like they're pretty competent with the videos, we'll let them do that and turn that in for the whole class today. So that ties up all the health-related components and how they're connected to sport. So if you ever need to make assessment, do something that's sport-specific, the whole second half of the semester was tying this to climbing, but the same thing would apply to almost any sport. Next week, we'll take all that video and we'll put it into a final video project. That will consist of the midterm video project, which was the first 2.5 minutes, and we'll complete another 2.5 minutes. For the second half, we'll combine those into one video. So roughly about 5 minutes, summarizing what we did throughout the semester. That'll be submitted there. I'll interview people on Monday, and then we'll edit it together. Whoever interviews with me on Monday doesn't have to show up on Wednesday. You will receive credit for that portion of that assignment, just like we did last time. Then we'll do the writing sample. We'll throw your midterm writing sample in to the first half, and then we'll complete the second half. And that's why we needed these images in the video for today, so we could complete that, not have to leave anything out. And then week 14, we've got a common assignment we've got to knock out. It's just how does Kines impact the community, because we're in the core 80, so we have to do a common assignment. And we'll prepare for that written post-test. If you get 90% or greater on that written post-test, you do not have to take the final, and you could be done with the course at that point. 90% or greater to give you incentive to study for it. And then in week 15, if there's anything you need to make up, I'll set with you one at a time and say, if I were in your shoes, these are the 2 assignments I would make up. What you can do to prepare for that is to go in and do the what-if grades and see how much influence that'll have.
I just have a question.
Sure.
So we do the writing sample, turn that in, would that improve the grades immediately, or would that be later on?
Oh, yeah. That writing sample is a huge chunk of the overall grade. It'll have a dramatic improvement. If you get all but it can have the inverse effect as well. So like if you didn't do as well on it, or didn't turn it in, it will have a dramatic impact on your grade no matter which way it goes. But most people are going to be able to knock this out. So week 15 is just tying up loose ends to make sure that anything you need to make up, we get it out of the way. And then if you didn't get 90% or greater, this is a great review for your final exam. So it wasn't wasted effort. It's got all similar questions to what you would have seen on that post-test. So it prepares you. Any questions? Yes?
Will the final exam be multiple choice, or is there some open-ended question?
It is short answer, final exam. But here's the kicker. You will have seen these questions before, not just in the quizzes, but in the midterm video assignment. Very similar questions. So you can go back and watch your midterm video assignment or your final video assignment, and it will prepare you for the final. So everything has a purpose. Okay, let's go over this. This is let me turn that screen off real quick. This is our matrices we've been working on all semester long. In the second half, I covered it just for each topic. So I would say, all right, muscle strength, here's the FIT principle, here's how it applies, here's the energy systems that apply to it. Then we went in muscle endurance, cardiorespiratory endurance, flexibility, and body comp. But body comp's not really, even though it's a health-related component, it's not physical in nature. But these other 4, if you design your training around it, will have an impact on your body comp. That's why we include it. Right? Like if I go up here for muscle strength, and I just work out using a muscle strength program, that will change my body composition. It will change the percentage of fast twitch glycolytic muscle I have to perform those lifts. If all I do is muscle endurance training, that will impact my body composition. Not only will it help me burn more fat at rest because it raises my resting metabolic rate, but I'll put on more fast twitch oxidative glycolytic. Fast twitch glycolytic here, fast twitch oxidative glycolytic. So it will change the muscle fiber type through those training methods. Same thing for cardiorespiratory endurance. If that's all I didn't do any body weight, any resistance training, I just went out and ran, I would put on more slow twitch, type 1 fibers. I would have a greater percentage than I would have without training, is what I'm getting at. That affects my body composition. So that's why body comp is included, even though it's not like a physical form of training. It's included in that because it is a health-related component. That's really the ultimate goal of those training methods, is to change that body comp. I either want to gain muscle, lose fat. I want to change my body comp. And all of these have different frequency. Today we're dealing with flexibility, but you'll notice here I'm saying with muscle strength, 3 to 4 times a week. Why am I limiting to 3 to 4 times a week? Because I need adequate recovery. I don't want to be doing strength training movements for those same muscle groups or I won't recover. Muscle endurance has a little bit more of an oxygen, it gets a little bit more oxygen to the tissue. Recovery happens a little faster. We can go 3 to 5 days a week, and we're also not breaking the muscle fibers down to the same extent we would with a strength training program. Cardiorespiratory endurance, same thing. We have higher percentage slow twitch. It heals faster. It's not broken down as much through the activity. And then flexibility, same recommendations, about 3 to 5 days a week to see changes in our overall flexibility if we're on that program. Intensity with muscle strength, muscle endurance, reps, weight, sets are a measure of intensity. Cardiorespiratory endurance, heart rate is a good measure of intensity. Time, how fast can I run it? Distance, how far can I go? Those are all measures of intensity. But you'll notice for intensity on flexibility, depends. What type of training am I doing? It could be something that's static. How long am I holding that for? That's a measure of intensity. Range of motion is a measure of intensity for static stretching. How far did I go into that stretch? Then when we get to top, anaerobic, obviously, for muscle strength, anaerobic, more specifically anaerobic glycolysis for muscle endurance. Cardiorespiratory endurance is aerobic oxidative energy system. But you'll notice on flexibility, depends on how I'm training. If I'm doing power yoga where you don't get a break and it's more dynamic, it's closer to Pilates, it could be more muscle endurance and cardiorespiratory endurance that I'm using, that I'm training for. But if it's a traditional yoga pose where I'm holding it for a certain period of time, but it's stop and go, could be more anaerobic. Right? I'm not trying to increase my heart rate at all.
When you say stop and go, you mean like just like for a little bit and then move to a different thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Stop and go. So hold that stretch for a little bit, about 10 or 12 seconds, then move on to the next.
Okay.
Hold that one for about 10 or 12 seconds. Power yoga, if you've ever seen it, is really close to Pilates, where you're actually going through the motions. It's more dynamic as opposed to just holding a static stretch. And you're actually trying to elevate the heart rate and keep higher heart rates. That's why there's a cardiorespiratory component to it. There's more of a muscle endurance component where I'm going for long periods of time moving my body weight through those activities. Energy systems, ATP, CP system for muscle strength, anaerobic glycolysis for muscle endurance, aerobic oxidative energy system for cardiorespiratory endurance. Again, for flexibility, it depends. Am I doing power yoga? Well, I'll be using a different energy system than just traditional yoga with static stretching. Muscle fiber types, most of your flexibility is going to be fast twitch oxidative glycolytic, most of it. Because it's a body weight activity, it's going to be more muscle endurance related. Even if you're going for longer periods of time, yeah, you may have more slow twitch build up, but the vast majority of your muscles will be fast twitch oxidative glycolytic. You won't get the big bulky muscles like you're going to see in powerlifting. It's going to be closer to what you would see with calisthenics. Sports, sprinting, powerlifting, anything dealing with power. For muscle strength, we used muscle endurance, we used climbing as our sport-specific measure of assessment for the second half of the semester, but wrestling would be in there. Anything where it's sustained contractions over a long period of time, where it's not just explosive, it's sustained contractions. Cardiorespiratory endurance, marathons, running triathlons, 5K would be a shorter cardiorespiratory endurance event, but it's still considered cardiorespiratory because of the distance and the time that you're going for. And then for flexibility, the sports that it would match up well, climbing, and you're going to see that today when we do the heel hook. Flexibility is huge because especially lower body flexibility, not just upper body, but lower body flexibility is extremely important because a lot of the lifting you do is happening from your legs. Same thing in gymnastics. Flexibility is extremely important in a lot of different gymnastics events. Jiu-jitsu, if you've ever seen guard, rubber guard, Eddie Bravo, super flexible, right? Johnny Bravo, yeah. And then we have all these different assessments we've done. For us, we did estimated 1 rep max for muscle strength. We did a grip strength test in here because it related to climbing. It was sport specific for us. Body weight, push-ups, sit-ups, lunges are great for muscle endurance. Anything where we're taking our body and moving it. That's why we did a muscle endurance with climbing, where I had y'all do multiple routes to fatigue. Then for cardiorespiratory endurance, you're normally going to see distance and time. Like if we got out here in a track, how fast can you run a mile? And how much time does it take you? Those are all great assessments. We did a step test looking at recovery heart rate. The great thing with recovery heart rate as an assessment is you can match it up to other sports. We did that for climbing. We took that same method and applied it to climbing just 1 route for 5 minutes, same time frame. And then for flexibility, we're going to do one today. We're going to actually do 2. We're going to do one that you would see in a normal program, like a sit and reach box. So if you took a weight training class, y'all might have done sit and reach, right? Very common in K through 12, very common in colleges as a health-related assessment. But we're going to look at a heel hook assessment for climbing. If it was something like a kickboxing class, we would do the sit and reach, but then we also have a heavy bag with markers on it, and we have you kick that bag 10 times as high as you can. We average those numbers together. That's a great sport-specific measure for a kickboxing class because it relates to exactly what we're going to be doing in the class. We're going to use a heel hook as an example today, as a sport-specific measure for flexibility and how that would be set up for a program. So each semester, what I plan on doing is changing the sport. Last time we did more of a kickboxing MMA assessment. This time I've taken a climbing route. And I'm just trying to pick different sports so I can show how you would create assessments for those sports. And before long, I'll have a whole book, hopefully, of assessments that others can use. So if they go work at a place like Velocity and you've got a very unique athlete that has a very specific sport and you don't have a lot of assessments, I can use that book where they can pull assessments from that, or at least understand how they're designed and design their own. Any questions? Oh, we got to go through types of stretching real quick. These are the major types. You've got static, so you would have active. Like if I go down and I hold that stretch, I'm doing that. That's self, right? So that's active. Passive would be if somebody pushed me into that stretch, partner assisted. Then you have dynamic, which is active. Like if I go over here and I throw a kick, that's dynamic, right? So I'm throwing the kick, that's a dynamic movement. But if I throw it with a lot of power, that's ballistic. The problem with ballistic is you can activate what's called muscle spindles. So if that muscle's already tight, and I stretch it beyond what it's used to, and those muscle spindles activate, it can tear the muscle. Have you ever seen somebody get into the splits and bounce? If those muscle spindles activate at the bottom of that stretch, it'll tear that hamstring. Google Chuck Liddell hamstring pull. That's a grade 3. He was out for over a year before he could fight again. It shows the bottom of his leg. It's a deep, dark purple. It may still be up on there. Go to Google Images and see if you can find it. That's a grade 3 strain. That's what he did. Somebody shot in. His partner grabbed his leg. He tried to sprawl. The partner still had the leg, and it tore the hamstring because the muscle spindles activated because he was dehydrated. And they contracted right as his muscle couldn't stretch anymore, and it tore it. And he was out for, I think, over a year before he could fight again. That's why we don't do a lot of ballistic stretching for the average person. It's dangerous. Yep, that's it. That's right after. A few days after the whole hamstring. Yeah, so it's a pretty nasty one. And then you have pre-contraction. That's where you're dealing with agonist, antagonist. Those can be partner-assisted. Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. PNF stretching is the most popular form. And that's where if somebody was laying down on their back, I think I may have done this in here before. If not, I did it for another class. Somebody's laying on their back. One leg is flat on the ground. I take the other leg as their partner, start to push it towards their head until I feel resistance, and then I tell them to push back against me with the leg. We do that contraction for about 10 seconds, and then I tell them to release that, and then I can go a little further. It's activating the Golgi tendon organ, which is another type of proprioceptor. It's a safety mechanism. So like if I'm lifting weights and I'm about to tear my bicep away from where it's attached, have you ever gone to the point where your arms have just failed? You probably activated that Golgi tendon organ. It's inside the tendon, and when the tendon gets stretched too much, it tells the muscle to relax instead of contract. That's what we're trying to activate with these pre-contraction types of stretching. Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, PNF. Google it and you'll see a lot of different forms of it, agonist, antagonist type of stretching. Okay, any questions? We're going to go over to the climbing wall. I've got the sit and reach set up there. I'll demo what I want you to do. One person will do it. The other person, whoever takes the best photos, will take the photos for us. They'll put it into a collage and send it out to the whole class. Then I'll demo the sport-specific heel hook. Y'all can just do a video of one person, and that video can be sent out to the whole class. And that'll give us something for that riding sample so that everybody has access to it. We don't have to do it based on the groups today. We just need one video and a collage of images of that sit and reach. I'll meet y'all at the couches. You can leave your sheet on your table, and I'll collect it. I'll demo the sit and reach, and then we'll do the images once we get over there. Yes.
I will not be here next week on Monday
Okay.
because I have an interview practice for the trustee
Awesome.
position, so
Cool.
I will not be here. I'm going to be in the library with the...
That's fine. Just coordinate with your group. And then
I usually do, but I'll probably suit you a